How's the yogurt, Donna?
Yeah, she's muted right now.
Her mute's mited. Her mute's mited.
It depends on
That's
which
right. Very
computer
good.
she's on.
Well, last night she was fixing yogurt during the meeting.
Tim, you shouldn't be talking about me behind my back.
Well, you're
I'm not
on the
behind you,
screen.
I'm in front of you.
I'm in the kitchen. I have things to do in the kitchen. I'm a good
Oh.
listener. And when the things are recorded, I get to watch it again. So, you know,
Yeah.
that really helps.
And she has an excuse for it to being dinner time because for her, it's still afternoon.
Right, it's 4 o'clock here.
Oh,
And I
yes.
feed Ken at 5, so I keep the screen off because you don't want to watch us eat.
That's true. Okay.
Okay.
We
We're
have
here, though. We're both
we
here.
we have an APCUG member that sometimes joins us, and in fact, he's about to. One of those Bud's local, and he's out in Hawaii, so we get the full range of time zones.
Oh, wow. So is it Bud in Hawaii?
No, California.
You're California, okay.
Yeah.
Wonder where the rest of our BCUG gang is.
I
There's
got a guy
Joe.
down in
Okay.
Hawaii.
Hey, Lee, are you listening? I see your mic is off.
Glad Max. Yeah, that's Lee.
That's Lee, yeah. Okay. He's coming in on his other machine.
Grind.
Okay,
Okay, what?
well, I'm finally in Zoom. I had Zoom on my my Dell laptop running Zorin OS crashed, so I had to relaunch it. And I
Okay,
linked to connect, and now I'm connected. And there's my background right there. Get out of the way.
wow.
Cool. So hello, everybody.
Hello.
Jody,
And yeah, we got a mix of people from different groups here.
Yep. We've got Tim from Chicago Computer Society, and John. I don't actually know which group you're a member of.
My home group is East Central Ohio.
Oh, okay.
That's Newark, Ohio, west or east of Columbus. So that's my other CCS group, which drives me crazy when I get emails because I have 2 CCS groups.
And Bud, what group in California are you with?
PCC, Hayward, California.
P for Pacific or?
I don't even know what the heck it stands for. It stands for something.
Ah, Dave's here.
I've only
Hey.
been a member for 30 plus years. I still don't know what the name of it is.
Hello, Dave.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And what group are you
Another
with,
one
Dave?
of our Linux team.
I'm with Santa Clarita Valley Computer Club.
Santa Clarita Valley.
That's Judy's group.
Judy's
Lee,
group.
Lee, I'm going to let you decide if that's the phone number you want to let in.
Yeah, that's probably Andy. I recognize it.
Okay.
As long as you recognize it, it's good.
Oh, yeah. Say hi, Andy.
Hi,
Hey,
Andy.
see that? He responds to treatment. So anyway, it's 7 o'clock, Mike, if you want to start the recording.
Okay, it is. I did start it. Let me just make sure it says.
Oh,
it's
yes, you,
recording.
yeah, I see the little
Yep.
bubble. Okay,
Yep,
I
it's
got a
starting.
warning saying recording in progress, so it must be
Yep.
working.
yep.
And I'll sit back and wait until it's my turn.
See, probably going to get a few more.
John Stample. It looks like a name I recognize. Is that one of yours?
Yeah, he's the president of our club.
Well, it'd be nice to let him in, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm actually running two computers like a couple other people here. My Mac is and I'm admitting people and managing it. And then the Linux laptop is me being able to talk and see. And you can see me because I've got a camera on this one. I don't have a camera on the Mini. So that's what's going on.
That was a trick that John suggested to me some time back, is do your presentation on a different computer than the one you're joining the meeting. So Sergey Glazer.
Yeah, it's one of ours.
You then?
Hey, Sergey.
Oh, there we go. Oh, somebody is logged in as BCUG workshop leader, but
Yeah,
not
that's-
Bill.
No,
That's the other Lee.
that's the other
Lee's
one.
got two computers.
Yeah.
Oh, that person better make Bill and Lee co-hosts.
Well, Bill's a co-host.
I don't need to be a host because I'm the host on the other computer, so I'm fine.
Yeah. So Lee basically has two computers going, John.
And
Basically,
I've got two computers going too as well.
Just to confuse us all.
Okay, Murray is from APCUG.
Okay.
Welcome, Murray. What
Actually,
user?
he's not. Nobody is really from
Well,
APCUG.
the environment. Yeah. What user group, Murray?
Yeah,
When he gets his mic working.
Sorry, what'd you say?
What user group are you with?
Well, I'm Victoria Linux Users Group, Victoria, British Columbia, Canada.
See, so we're
Oh,
we're
there you
now
go.
we're now international.
There we go.
Doesn't take much.
Bill, what's that background behind you? What's your background?
That is a picture of the Samba Drome in Rio de Janeiro.
Oh, okay.
That's the one of the nights of the finals of the Samba competition in February 2020.
Oh, okay.
Put it on your bucket list.
Do
There's only
it.
60,000 people in that stadium.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Who else might be coming? Well. Okay.
We're about as unorganized as you can get.
Just the way we like it.
Hey, I got a question that maybe some of you can answer. I don't understand it at all. When I rebooted my Linux desktop computer this morning, I'm disconnected from my LAN and internet. And it says, if I looked at the little icon that shows about the connection, it says I'm connected both via the Ethernet connection to my router, which it has the right address to it, and to both by the Ethernet and by a 5G Wi-Fi. But I'm not really connected. I can't ping anything. And I think that it's got the wrong, it's not got the address that the router wants to give it. And I just tearing my hair out trying to figure out why that happened. I mean, normally when you plug in a computer to an Ethernet, it just finds it and connects to it. But this one, I've had trouble before, and it took me a long time to get it solved. But of course, I don't remember how I did it now.
You're probably not set up as a router, and yet you have two routes. And so looking at your routing table might help. Netstat-R or -RN, if you don't want to -N prevents it from translating names to numbers or numbers to names.
Okay.
And that will show you what your routes are. And in particular, the one of interest is the default route.
So that's netstat.
-RN.
Okay. Yeah,
Murray,
okay.
you solved the problem. How did you solve the problem?
That's the problem. I should have recorded how I solved the problem. I don't remember.
Well,
I mean, I
most
solved it
likely,
before, but I mean,
most likely
think-
disabling one of the interfaces will resolve the problem, at least
well,
temporarily.
I've done that. I've tried dissolving both of them. What I think is happening is that the router is trying to give it one address, and it shows a different address. For example, if I go to the router on another machine, it shows that machine as having a static IP ending in 100. But if I look at in the IP config and I look at it, it says that it's broadcasting a different number in that position. And I don't know how to change that one. I tried changing, going in the network configuration and changing things, but it didn't seem to work.
Hey, Sergey, is it time for Murray to share his screen?
Yeah, well, I
That
can't.
might be helpful.
Yeah, if only I could connect to the internet on it so that I could show you.
That's right. He doesn't have a networking connection that is
Oh.
operational. I would start by disabling one of the network interfaces,
Why do you have two network interfaces?
Well,
wired and wireless.
the motherboard on this computer has a Wi-Fi built into it.
Shut off Wi-Fi.
I did that. That didn't help.
Well, the question is, will that persist across a reboot or reconfig of the network? I would be tempted, if your Wi-Fi is good enough, to pull the cable on the Ethernet connector and then reboot. That way you're guaranteed to have exactly one connection.
Okay.
And your Wi-Fi should be configured correctly.
Yeah.
And you should be at least minimally functional at that point.
Okay. Well, I'll try that again. I'll try that later.
You know,
Okay.
but the thing to do is, if you want to have a multiple connections to your computer, it needs to be set up as a router. It's a kernel parameter that needs to be tweaked. And I don't remember where there is a user-friendly way of setting that up. But you probably don't want it to be a router anyway.
No, I don't. And
so the thing to pursue would be to permanently disable one of the connections.
Yeah, well, I probably would permanently disable. I would rather permanently disable the Wi-Fi because
Sure.
they're better off to have the.
But without actually disabling anything, just unplugging the Ethernet connector should get you going.
I'll give that a try.
You need to have minimal functionality.
Yeah, well,
right. But you.
I mean, I've got a 5 gig connection, and it's pretty fast anyway. And that's right beside the router, so it's about a foot from the router, so it's got a good strong signal.
My understanding was that if there are two network connections available or two routes available, that the system will pick the stronger one, the faster one.
No, the system will act as a router. Right. If you have more than one connection, then it needs to know how to shuffle which network the packets go on and how to shuffle packets from one network to another and which packets need to be shuffled from one network to another. Right. So you don't want to have multiple connections.
Yeah, I normally
don't. That's going to get the whole network stack fairly confused.
I know that when I was having trouble before, I actually got the Wi-Fi working before I got the wired connection working. I do remember that. But I'll try that. I'll try disconnecting that. By the way, just I did mention in my reply to Mike was that this computer that I'm using right now is actually running Ubuntu 22.04, which is I don't even think it's a beta yet, but it's been running now for about 5 days with absolutely no glitches. About a week before I'm not doing anything dangerous like installing it, it's strictly a live USB. But what I've done is I've been running it now for 5 days. A week before I downloaded this particular one, I couldn't boot from it, but I decided to try it again 5 days later to see what it looked like, and it seems to be working pretty good. I'm not sure what advantages it has, except that it is now. I wasn't running an LTS version. I was running 20.04, and this is, of course, 22.04 will be an LTS version.
So you're probably running a beta of it or something like that.
I don't even think. I think it's an alpha actually. It's a daily. it's a daily download, you know, I mean.
Oh, you're on a daily build? All right.
Yeah, so.
Bleeding
So it's-
edge.
It's really,
Absolutely.
really, it would be dangerous to try to do that as a installed system, but I'm surprised that it's working so well and has been working so well now for so long. And I expect it to break down before now. The only thing I noticed with it, although I was downloading Xubuntu, it actually downloaded Ubuntu because it's got a GNOME desktop, not an XFCE. And the other thing I noticed with it is that so I had to, I don't like the GNOME desktop, GNOME interface as much as the others, but I'm getting used to it. And the other thing I noticed was that the middle click didn't work on the mouse. You know, when you copy, highlight something and then middle click to paste it, that didn't work. It was, so I had to do some funny things in the configuration to get that part working, but it's working now.
Is 2204 running Wayland instead of X server at this point?
I'm not sure. How do I find that out? I'm not sure how.
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
I bet Google knows how to figure that out.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
That's a Google question.
I mean, I just uploaded it, and the thing is, I can tell because of the way the I normally don't have all the icons that on the left-hand side, but I find that if I click on the activities, I didn't remember this from before, but I can have multiple desktops, and what I do is if I push on activities, it will show me those desktops. I don't normally see them, but that works quite well.
Cool. We got any other questions or random things?
Oh, that's probably as much as I've got done in the week. I've been working mostly on genealogy stuff. So
So I was reading a bit about Wayland a few weeks ago, and the impression I got left with from what I understood is that with Wayland, X just runs as a Wayland client, and that's how X compatibility is achieved. So I haven't actually run a system with Wayland, so I don't have any firsthand experience, but looking for a functioning X server on a machine that's running Wayland may or may not provide you a good answer if X is running anyway. Right. So in particular, the X applications, the clients of X are going to be wanting to talk to an X server. And I think what happens is that the Wayland comes with an implementation of X server that uses Wayland as a backend to actually do the display.
Yeah.
oh, somebody showed me a command. What is it called? FC, I think it is. I haven't done much exploring with it, but it looks quite neat. If anybody feels with that, what it will let you do is basically get your some of your bash history, take out the stuff on the left hand side, and let you put that all automatically into a script. So if you have a bunch of commands that you ran, you can basically simply create a script that you can run anytime. It's probably got a lot of other functions too.
Is that an app you install or what is
No,
that?
no, it's just a command. It's a bash
really?
command. It's not well documented, apparently. I mean, I don't think there's a man page for it, but there is something on the web that tells you what it can do.
So the name of this command is FC as in Frank Charlie?
Yeah, that's right, if I remember correctly, yeah.
Okay.
I was going to suggest, Murray, that you put it in chat. That way we'll have a reference.
Yeah, if I can
to
find it,
in the
yeah, I'll
meeting
do
and so
that.
forth.
Yeah. See if I can do that.
Evening, Bruce.
Well, I think you'd like to see my smiling face.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I just had to figure out which button to push.
It's only a computer. How hard can it be, right?
There's so many of them. There's so many buttons. Oh my God.
Oh. Wow.
I'll tell you my,
People. Wow.
I'm into Hawaiian mode, hoping for warmer weather. So I tried to be a little more colorful tonight. So there you go.
Excellent.
How is that working, Bruce?
It's not at all. Actually, it's up to over 50 degrees last couple of days. So we're getting there.
Yeah, we're almost there in Victoria too.
No more snow until at least Sunday around here.
By the way, I did put that command in the chat area. A link to the description of it.
Yeah, thank you.
I've also, it's quite a while ago, but I did learn a lot of things, useful things you can do with the CP command that I didn't know before. One of the things that you can basically do, and I did use this for one of my Raspberry Pi setups, you could basically almost use it like a backup. Is one of the, if you certain parameters will work just as neatly as rsync or something like that.
I will make a comment about Zoom and Linux. They've theoretically updated the Zoom client to do automatic updates, or at least give you a notice that there was an update and then click on a link to update. And I didn't get that today when I was looking to get the latest version on my Linux computer.
I didn't try that today. I know that I know that it updated automatically on my Mac and Windows machine.
Yeah, the Windows did, but I still had to go to Zoom and download the latest version, which is a couple of decimal points later than what I had the last time I used Zoom. And it wipes out your video,
your preferences,
your video backgrounds.
Yeah, but I remember that did that. Yeah.
And I also had the Zoom icon on my desktop and on my panel. And the old version of Zoom opened when I clicked on either of those. So I had to delete those, then go to the installation, then say add to the panel and add to the desktop.
What is that funny noise?
Yeah, I don't know.
Sounds like somebody's playing a didgeridoo.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Or a mouth harp.
All kinds of interesting noises.
Let me make sure it's not my microphone here. I will turn my mic off and we'll see.
How about everybody just mute for a minute and we'll see how it comes back.
I muted mine.
Sounds like it's Lee. Lee, is that sound coming from you?
Well, he's been eating. Maybe it's his stomach rumbling.
That's what it is.
The participant panel shows the noise is coming from Lee.
Yeah.
Participant panel shows the noise is coming from Lee.
Yeah.
Maybe a loose connection on the microphone wire.
It sounds like Lee is not hearing us.
Maybe Lee needs to turn his microphone volume down a little bit, maybe.
I was trying a
Or
different.
does his other computer have it?
I was trying a different speaker via Bluetooth and it crapped. Oh well.
Yeah, you can't use this mic and speakers on both computers that you've got.
Well, I have the other computer is totally muted. There's no sound or coming in or out, or it should be.
Yeah, but what's coming out of that computer's speakers is going into the active mic.
Okay, I didn't know that. All right, let's just mute this thing.
Yeah, audio feedback can be a little bit subtle.
It is muted. No, the iMac is, the Mac Mini is muted. There's no sound coming out of it. So I'm not sure what's going on.
Well, do we have the problem anymore?
No, it seems to.
Haven't heard it.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm good here too.
sorry about that.
It's all right. That's what we do.
Yeah.
So Mike, you want to do your thing?
All right.
All right.
I'm seeing a bunch of new faces and that's great. So let's go on with it.
All
Yeah,
righty.
I'll just mention before we go that sometime during this, I will have to leave. We have fixed hours for dinner here where I'm at. I'll have to leave for dinner a little bit before the hour, next hour. But thank you for giving me the invitation. I'm glad to join and meet some of you.
Okay. Well, tonight, some of the Central Florida Computer Society members have joined with BCUG. Many of the folks that join us on our Linux SIGs are not local members. So as I look around the participants tonight, the vast majority are those that have come in from elsewhere and joined us. So I think this is a great idea to do periodically. And it just worked out because BCUG and Central Florida Computer Society, CFCS, meet on the same night at the same time. Maybe sometime in the future we can deconflict and then we can participate in both groups. So I suggested that since I've been playing with Ventoy, that I might go through some of the benefits of it a little bit. I know John Kennedy did a very nice presentation that's recorded on the APCUG YouTube channel, which shows a lot of the capabilities of Ventoy. And I had never done a Linux installation of Ventoy. And working with Donna Armitage a couple of weeks ago, we decided to try and do an installation solely on Linux. And we thought we had it solved, but we ran into a stumbling block when the USB stick that we made, even though after we booted it up, did not actually load Ventoy. And I couldn't figure out why. And so in my research for putting tonight's presentation together, I found out that if you go to the Ventoy website and download their live CD, which is one of their options, and then make it on a USB stick, you don't have Ventoy. You've got the Ventoy installation program. And then if you run that, you can make another USB or overwrite the current stick and make a Ventoy. So at any rate, I'll show a little bit about what it is, explain a little bit about what it can do, and then I can actually do a live install on another USB if we have time. So what I'm going to do is switch over to my other computer. You'll see my right ear as I'm talking. I'm going to share my screen and my desktop. And let's see if in sharing that, it will go to desktop 2 when I do it automatically. I'm going to have to share desktop 2. Yes. Okay, good. All righty. And let's see, I need to hide this panel, which is a control / I think. Let's see if that works. It's just going to overlay this thing and cause me problems. So hang on while I do that, get rid of it. Okay, so here is the Ventoy website. The address is ventoy.net. And when you go there, it gives you a good overview. Somebody is talking in the background. If you'll mute your mic, please. And it says it's an open source tool to create a USB drive for many programs that give you live installations, mostly used for ISOs. Phil, could you mute, please? Let me see if we can, there we go. Okay. So you can do the reading. It talks, there's a lot of good stuff here. It tells you what it'll do fast and boot and do all the rest of this stuff. So what I'm going to do first is actually show you a Ventoy USB that I have plugged into this notebook. So I'm just going to go down to my files. You can see that in my devices, I have a Ventoy USB sitting here. And on it, you can see that there's a folder with system volume information. And after you make a Ventoy USB. All the rest of this is blank. So this is one that I made probably 4 or 5 months ago. I did it on my Windows computer, and it was fairly straightforward. Linux is a little roundabout, but you can see, for example, I wanted to have a backup program, Clonezilla, which runs best on a bootable live distro rather than actually having it loaded on your computer. So it gives me the opportunity then to boot this up if I wish. I just put this USB in, say boot from it, and I can have Clonezilla's live do the same thing. I happen to like the ESUS partition manager, and so I can do that also. And it will operate under Windows, it'll operate under Linux, and it gives me a very good partition manager. In the past, I've actually wanted to install Microsoft Office, and I wanted the installation ISO. So I have that on here. So you can see a whole bunch of different ISOs, which I've installed on this particular Ventoy disk. And the idea is you just boot from it, you get a nice menu, you choose what you want, and it boots. So let's actually take a look at a video that I made using this disk well, actually the video I actually made a separate one, but I have a video of me booting from the Ventoy, and you can see what it does. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that, and I'm going to go to the video, and you will see the menu that I got when I booted this up. So let's go ahead and select that and go full screen. This was shot with my phone on a tripod, unfortunately not a straight angle. But you can see that what you just saw, my Ventoy menu, or my Ventoy file listing, is now on the Ventoy menu. And one of the items was Zorin, which they may be talking about later tonight. So I said, all right, let me boot Zorin up. So you can see I selected it. The notebook booted. It says it's going to install in 4 seconds. 1 second. Famous last words. There we go. Zorin is installing. I had to edit this because it took a little bit longer than I liked. So I shortened this down. And we should see the main menu here in just a moment. Okay. So when you boot up the Zorin live distribution, you get try or install. So I chose try. And just as if you had your own USB stick just with Zorin on it, you can now go into their live distribution and you can play with it. So I played with it for a little bit, looked at the main menu, took a look at the accessories. Took a look at some of the games that come with it. Looked at the internet apps. Looked at the system tools. Notice the gparted comes with it, which is nice to have without having to download it separately. Partition manager. And they have a nice tour. I just zipped through the tour, but it gives you a very, very quick overview of what Zorin can do. You can notice the screen is very Windows-like, panel on the left, status on the right. We actually did an installation of Zorin and tried it out for a couple of months. So I had that ISO available. And then I just went to power off. So in demonstrating what Ventoy can do, at least it gave me, you know, what I could actually do with it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove that Ventoy, and I'm just going to plug what I think is a blank disk into, yeah, you can stop. I'm going to go back there. Okay, so I've just plugged a Lexar USB into my USB. And it tells me that there's nothing on it, except there's probably a partition on it. And when you install Ventoy, I found out, at least in Linux, it doesn't like to install over an existing partition. Many times when you create something from an application and it formats a USB drive, it'll caution you to say caution because you're going to overwrite everything that's on there. I found with the Ventoy installation under Linux, it wants you to have literally a blank USB, and you need to know what device it is. So I will start off by saying, let's close that. In Ventoy, when you choose Get Started, it will give you how to use it. And they start off naturally with Windows. And then they scroll down and they say there are 2 graphical user interface modes for installing. On this particular computer, me personally, I was not able to get either of these 2 to work. So for that, project for those of you that like playing around with it, if you get it to work, this would be a great presentation for a future meeting or feedback. So I decided, all right, I'm going to do this then from the terminal using the shell commands or the root commands. So it tells you that if you download the package, the installation package, and then you decompress it into a folder, then from the terminal, you can do this command. So I should have that. Let's see if it's actually sitting here. If I tab to it. No, I didn't put it in. All right. So I have what I do is I actually copy these commands and put it onto the, let me see if I have it here as the notebook, as the notes. Yep, there I did. All right. So what I did is I said, if you notice what the commands were, what I did is I copied those commands here onto a little notepad so that I could then just have it and play with it. So if we go back to it, I guess it's in the other. Yeah, it's in the other one. So what I did essentially is I copied this command and then I pasted it into that little Ventoy right here. I added sudo in front of it because I knew I was going to do it. And then I chose the option that I want, which means install and overwrite anything that may be there, whether there's something on the hard drive or not, or on the USB drive or not. And then I had to find out, all right, then what is my device identity? And I found out the device identity was SDB1. Now, how did I do that? I did that with gparted. So let's take a quick look at gparted. And then we'll go down here and you can see I have a 16 gigabyte drive, so that made it fairly quickly that I could find out what it is. And you can see that that Lexar USB actually has a partition in there. And it's listed as SDB1. Well, I was learning as I went, so I used that terminal command, defining it just the way it shows, SDB1. And I got an error. It says, hey, we don't like installing on partitions. Give us the base device name. Okay, so what I had to do to do the installation was take that SDB1 out. So I just copied the command again down here, and it looked like, okay, this is the command then that I have to use in order to create that disk and do it as the instructions tell me to do it. So there's the command I want to put in my terminal to make this work. So I'm going to copy that now to the clipboard. All right, meanwhile, I got to get rid of this partition so I have a blank partition. So I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to unmount it. Right click again, delete the partition. I'm going to click on it. get rid of that partition, close. Okay, now I have an unallocated USB drive with approximately 16 gigabytes, and I should be able to just connect it. Now, what I'm going to have to do is remount it. So I'm going to close this and I'm going to unplug it. I know there's a command I could use to remount, but I'm just going to unplug it and plug it back in so that it remounts. I've got the terminal command copied. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm in my terminal. I'm going to paste that command in. I'm going to take out that SDB1. I just want SDB. Okay. So now that should in fact work. Famous last words. Let's press enter and see what happens. So it's telling me, hey, wait a minute, dummy. We don't know where this is located. And remember the instruction said download it and decompress it. Where did I download it to? I put it in downloads. So I'm going to work my way to it step by step. Change directory. All right, I'm in downloads. Let's see what I've got there. Files and folders. Okay, so Ventoy is actually sitting in, well, here's the tar zip, which I extracted. And I've already extracted it by double clicking on it, and it just extracted it right in place. Previously, I played with that live CD that I told you that I found out that what it does is actually make an installation live, not actually a Ventoy that's ready to go. So I need to do the installation going down into the folder Ventoy to find out where that's located. So let's change to that. Okay, let's see what's here. Okay, so I'm now in the folder for Ventoy, and here is the Ventoy to disk sh. There's the script. So I'm in the folder. That's the script I want to run. Let's try the previous command. And there's the command that I want to go. So again, I'm going to look at it. I'm using sudo to give me admin privileges. I'm going to use the sh command, ventoy to disk.sh, and ventoy to disk sh is right here. I means do it regardless of whatever's on that USB. And there's my device. So I'm going to go ahead and let that exit. And let's see. Yep, it's saying you're going to install it to SDB. The data on the disk will be lost. Well, as I said earlier, when I tried it with something on there, that command still said, hey, you're specifying the partition. So I had to get rid of the partition. So I'm going to say yes. Okay. Double check. Sure. Let's do it. So it's creating the partition. There is an option if you need to change the partition from MBR. It's a minute or two to actually go through all this processing. Okay, it says it's done. All right, if it's done, I ought to be able to see it. So let's take a look at my files. And let's take a look at Ventoy. And it says it's there. And it says, well, you don't have anything on here. Okay, well, that's true. I haven't copied an ISO on here to boot. So let's go to my downloads. And let's get Zorin. And let's copy it. Let's go back to Ventoy. Let's right click on it, paste. And now it's going to take a few minutes to copy it on here. So my first live distro, if you will, or installable ISO, all you do is just copy it. You don't have to worry about installing it. You don't have to worry about burning it on another USB. And once you've created Ventoy, you can just drag and drop any bootable ISO, and the mechanism that's behind it will determine what's there and put it on the menu system for you. "49 seconds to go." So for those looking to do step by step by step, this is being recorded and I will make it available both to BCUG and the CFCS folks. And you can play it back. I would suggest reading what's on the website in terms of the text files, the instructional files. I'm sure somewhere on YouTube, there's also a discussion on how to do what I just did. And what I did was trial and error over about an hour and a half to 2 hours to come down with the procedure that I just did with you. The biggest problem I had was making sure that I defined exactly what the command was once I had Ventoy to disk in its own folder. And obviously you don't want to overwrite one of the drives on your system. So you really want to look at disks or gparted and make sure the definition of your USB at the device is identified when you use this command.
Oh, I have a question.
Sure.
You're saying you can just drag and drop this thing on there.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the Ventoy program that manages this? It must be on the device.
That's right.
So if you do an ls-l on the device, maybe the program is hidden, but it's got to be there.
It's in its own little partition. Let's take a look at it. Let's go back into gparted. We're copying and everything, so it may take a minute for it to populate. You have to wait another 8 seconds or 7 seconds, and then I should be able to populate here. Okay, so it's there. Are you going to, it's searching right now for it. Let me close it. Oh, there we go. Okay, so let's go to it. Okay, so Ventoy itself is right here. Okay, it's created a little exFAT partition, and then sitting on, well, that's the big one. Okay, so it's created a little FAT16 partition of 32 megabytes, and all the instructions are there, and it's set this as the bootable partition, even though it's sitting over here on the right side. So in the boot code, it says boot into this partition. Ventoy loads. That's the menu you see that you saw in my little video of me actually booting and loading it. And it then uses its commands to say, well, what's in here that I recognize as a bootable ISO or a bootable distribution? And then it populates the menu with it and then lets you choose it, and then it runs with it. Did that answer the question? But you're right, I could probably at the terminal, change to this device, change to this partition, and then ls.l in here, and then I can actually see, let's see, well, I can't do it here. And I don't know, can I do it in the file system? Let's see. No, because its file system is just mounting Ventoy right now. It doesn't actually mount that little partition until you boot it.
Can you type ls block and see it? ls blk on the command.
All right, so let's see. Let's change here. So let me get back to. Oh, okay. What command would you like me to change to?
ls block blk, all one word, not all one word. I just wondered if it'll show you the partitions. Yeah, there it shows you.
Yeah. Okay, so I am looking at, yeah, there's the one and there's the two. There's the little 32 megabyte.
Yep, there you go.
So it's down in there. And again, I'll now that we've done this, I can just run that video again real quick and let you see that that's what's happening when
Question,
when
Mike,
you boot
before
it.
you run the video, a
Yep.
question. So now you have it on the flash drive. What are the steps to get it on the computer?
You don't put Ventoy on the computer ever.
But I mean, the ISO that you
Okay.
opened.
Right. So again, that's what we're doing.
No?
Let
Okay.
me go back to this. For some reason, let me get back to that. Okay, so let me stop for a minute. Okay, so if I take this disk that I just created, this floppy disk, obviously I won't have Zoom on. I would have to get my camera out and my phone and connect it to it so you could all see it. That's why I made this video. So essentially, with what I've done right now, if I were to boot the USB we just made, you wouldn't see any of this. This is what you would see on the menu. You would see Zarn sitting on the menu. And so what you're asking, Don, is how do I get that on my computer? You boot Ventoy, you select it. And so the selection process is just up arrow and down arrow. So watch this. I'm using the up arrow and it should go up here in a second. There you go. See, I'm moving the up arrow. And now I'm gonna move the down arrow. I'm gonna come down here to Zarn. Now I'm gonna press the enter key. It's booting right now and see the screen goes, and I'm gonna stop right here. So what happened was Ventoy recognized it was bootable. Its code said, okay, boot that ISO. So on the ISO were the choices to either try or install, put it in with safe graphics, or do with modern NVIDIA drivers. So that's all on the Zorin distribution, on the distro. Ventoy basically has transferred control once it starts to boot and is no longer in the process. And I could have had Mint on there. I could have had Ubuntu on there. Could have Arch Linux on there. All the distros you might like to try on there. John Kennedy, you've been listening in. Would you like to comment on your experience with Ventoy?
I think you've got more experience with Ventoy than me. I do too many other things, but you know, it's very simple because it's just a live disk or a live media that you plug in, then choose from it. Very much the same as if you had a dual boot computer like Donna used to have, or maybe still has, that when the computer starts up, you have two choices. Do you want to boot Windows or do you want to boot Linux? Yours with the Ventoy, you've got multiple choices that you can pick.
So for those that are, there's a term, distro hopper. You know, I mean, if you want to, there's lots of ways to look at different distributions. You know, you can go to a website and you can look at them virtually. You can set up a virtual machine and you can load different distros in there. I started out with probably 10 different 8 gigabyte flash drives, putting a distro on each one, and just, you know, okay, I want to try this. Now I want to try that, you know, looking at different ones. And then I watched John's coverage of Ventoy and I said, yeah, what a great idea. I can just get a 32 gigabyte flash drive and put 10, 12, 14 different distros on there. And as I wish, boot them up. And if I want to, even install them, and they're there. So it's just a nice tool to have. I will admit, it was easier to do this in Windows because the installation program, it just runs, loads, put your USB in, you get the menu, you create it, and it's done. But the challenge that I had was, okay, if I had just a Linux system and that's all I had, and I wanted to create Ventoy, how would I do it? So the bottom line was, if you do it from the terminal and you've extracted your files in a folder where you know they are, and you determine what the terminal command is from the options that Ventoy gives you, then being safe and making sure that you are addressing the command to the location that the floppy disk is in, or excuse me, floppy disk that the USB drive is in. It's fairly straightforward at that point. As you saw, it made it tonight. The only other option that I saw was what I tried the first time, and I had downloaded it. I thought when I downloaded the Ventoy live distribution, it went directly to my floppy drive. I didn't even have to put it on the Linux computer. It just said, make this as a live distribution and put it on your USB. So I did. And then I thought, okay, I've got Ventoy, I'm ready to go. Unfortunately, I didn't realize what I was looking at was a live distribution of the install of Ventoy. So after the light bulb went on and I got another USB and stuck it in another port, then it recognized that, and I very quickly made another Ventoy distribution. So it was kind of a two-step process. So really, I think what I would prefer to do is just go to the terminal. Once it's done, and I don't think I will actually go through this process too many times unless I want more than one 32 gigabyte Ventoy floppy, and I don't think I will have a need to do that.
There's a lot of distributions out there.
Oh, there are.
Yeah. Well, and I like what you have on yours would be, I would have, because I have 2 thumb drives, would be to have one Ventoy rescue and tech support, and then the other Ventoy would be distros to play around with. But if you got a big thumb drive, then you can put everything on one.
Yeah, you can
Right,
go to
John, I
go
did
to a
something-
64.
Sorry, I did something similar. I got a 64 gig flash drive and I have the utilities as well as the ISOs on there. The trick for a lot of people would be figuring out how to boot from the USB instead of the hard drive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, especially since you use a different set of commands or keys on different
On different computers, yes.
computers.
Exactly.
We
I just put in the chat how I usually make bootable USB ISOs. It works really well and it's really easy.
we lucked out with this Lenovo. The Central Florida Computer Society authorized me to purchase a used computer to use for the SIG. And I went shopping, found a local dealer that gave us a 25% discount. And this particular Lenovo, he didn't even know it, I didn't know it at the time, has actually 2 power buttons. It's got the usual round thing you just press and the power turns on, but it's got a small, take your pen point and press power button. And when you do that, it brings up the boot menu.
Oh, nice.
And so all you do is just power on with that. You get your boot menu, choose what you want, and go straight to the floppy USB, and from the menu, and not even worry about which function key is the boot manager.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
Andy, quick question. I noticed when you were jockeying your flash drives, one was Lexar. Did I miss some? Did the one that you ultimately install on, was that already labeled Ventoy, or did it pick up the Ventoy label when you did the install?
The second. Yeah, it was Lexar labeled because I had formatted it on my Windows computer in FAT32 and just called it Lexar. Brought it over to the Lenovo computer, plugged it in, and I went to run the commands once I had everything lined up, and it gave me an error. And it said, hey, you're trying to install on a partition that has data. I said, oh, all right, then I'll remove the data. Then it said, hey, you're trying to install on an empty partition, but the partition's still there. So, all right. So what I needed to do was specify the device, which was dev without the 1, just dev B, and then it worked.
Right, but did you give it the Ventoy label, or
No.
did the Ventoy install labeled it?
Ventoy labeled it.
I'm gonna have
Andy?
to leave, so I'll say bye and thanks for the presentation.
Okay, Murray, thanks for
Hope to see
joining
you
us.
again. Bye.
Take care, Murray.
Good night.
Yeah.
Take care, Murray.
that
Andy,
was-
this is Sergi. So if you noticed when Ventoy installed itself on that USB stick, it explicitly said that it's putting its own partition table on there. So it chose the MBR partition table, which was a little surprising. I was wondering why it didn't choose GPT, but anyway, as it created that partition table on that disk, it put a label on that disk. That label is part of a standard partition table, and a disk can have its own label in either MBR or GPT.
Yeah, I think GPT was on the command structure. I could have specified GPT instead of MBR. And by default, it was MBR.
No, I've played
Interesting
around
that
with
it chose that.
partitions. I've played around with partitions on flash drives, and I've never had anything change the label. So that's why I was just kind of curious.
Yeah, I think it's something that they just want it to be their label so that Ventoy is Ventoy. Maybe it works better that way. Because I noticed that too, that I couldn't change it to whatever I wanted it to.
Yeah. You know, the GPT versus MBR makes sense to me because I think there are still some computers out there that won't boot GPT, right? So.
Yep.
So you go for the lowest common denominator?
Did I hear that if you change the partition label to away from Ventoy, it give you problems?
John, did
Oh,
you have a problem?
I don't even know if I tried to do that. I just figured that's what, when it set it up that way, that it wanted it that way.
Oh, okay. I hope that you can change it anything you want because you've got several of them. It will be easier that way.
That's correct. But, you know, like both the two guys said, they have big thumb drives, so they only needed one.
Yeah.
I have a comment that's maybe completely unrelated. I have sitting next to me 8 thumb drives, driving me crazy. They're too small to write on, some of them. I have some that are 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. I finally got disgusted, and what I decided to do was to go and buy a package of little plastic Ziploc bags. You can do that, but if I use the Ziploc bags, I can put a label in it that says what it is. I can put as big a label as I want. Yeah, well, everybody's got a choice. $6 for 100 small Ziploc bags.
Yep.
And now I can drop my flash drives in there. Now, I may not need as many if I use Ventoy, but there are a lot of them for different reasons. So that was the simplest way that I could think of to be able to keep track of things, because I can't write on them all. They're all different shapes and sizes.
Yeah, I agree. I got little labels probably for the same kind of price, right? A few bucks. Just on a string.
One of the things that I did was type up a label for it, and then in the computer, shrink that printing down real small, and then I'd cut it out and stick it on the thumb drive.
It's tough when you have those 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch drives. And I've got a whole bunch of those. They are the cheapest ones I can get now, sometimes from Best Buy.
Those Brother label printers are really cheap.
Yeah,
and
this
you can get
But
either
sticking
the
the
manual
label on the
or
1/2
the
inch by
computer
1/2
ones.
inch drive was not a good solution.
Nope.
Yeah.
I use the P-Touch.
Yeah, they're all nice. And you can change the font size and then get your scissors out and cut it down.
Yeah.
So
I use a ribbon with a Post-it, a miniature part of a Post-it here to put the name on the
ribbon.
On the ribbon that way, but also if you drop it or stuff, the long ribbon tail makes it easier to find. I got different color ribbons for different types of drives too, so that's helps too.
I use these little cheap tags you can buy at Staples or somewhere, and I write on them with a pen. So, you know, that's maybe more primitive, but it works just fine.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I'd get paper cuts from it.
Okay.
So everybody's got a solution.
There you go.
and-
I
And
just
you can
lose my thumb
decide
drives
whether
and
one of
get
the
new
ones you
ones.
just heard was a better one than the one that you've been using.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike,
Yes.
last question. Did you have an opportunity to play around with persistence on any of the ISOs that you installed?
Define persistence.
You fire up a live CD or a live ISO, you do a couple of things, you change a couple of settings, and it retains the settings.
Never tried that. No.
Mike, I thought you were doing that with Donna one time with working on one of that, so it would store information on the thumb drive.
I don't recall. I've done so many different things, but
Yeah.
That is something,
typically I'll use a live to see what it looks like, you know, see if I like, you know, what's there. There's a website that I've become a Patreon on, eBuzz Central. He's got a YouTube channel, and I like what he does. He reviews at least 3 or 4 different distros a week. And the guy's got a lot of persistence, talking about persistence and time, I guess, to do it. And so he'll run through in about 20 minutes all the major things that are included in a distro, from the display on the desktop to all the menu settings to some of the specific features. And I put that in my own YouTube channel and playlist, so that I can go back and I can say, all right, if I find something on recommended in a chat group or something like that, I can go back and see if he's done a review of it. And then from that, then I'll get the live distro, download it and play with it. But I usually don't make any changes that I keep. The only thing I did see, John, was in the setup of Linux Mint as a live distro, I had connected to my Wi-Fi. And then when I immediately went to install, it kept those settings. And as soon as it installed, I was connected to the Wi-Fi, and I didn't have to go back and set it up again. So there was some persistence in some of the settings.
Yeah. I think I made one when I was using MX Linux. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, since it's been a while, that their internal CD maker was able to make, automatically made a persistence partition so that you could save things. But, I don't really run live for that purpose. I do it for testing and demonstrations. So I haven't done that to make sure that all of my live ones have a persistent partition to store files. That's why I have the cloud.
No, this wasn't so much for storing files. It was more for just saving the settings.
Yeah.
Okay.
After you launch it.
So that you could reboot the live distro and all the changes you had made were still there. Haven't tried that.
It doesn't do anything with the original ISO. The original ISO is intact, but any changes that you made are saved. I think of it as an overlay.
Yeah.
They call it persistence, but I think of it more as an overlay because the underlying ISO is not affected at all.
they use something called an overlay file system to do that. But I think it's usually distribution specific.
Persistence file. One of the Windows utilities for creating bootable USBs lets you automatically create a persistence file. I don't know if it's UNet bootin or one of them. It asks you when you're walking through the install.
Yeah, I think UNet bootin used to be able to do that, but I'm not exactly sure, just from architecture point of view, how it does it without cooperating with the distribution in terms of having the distribution mount the overlay file system.
agnostic as far as I know.
Okay, Bill, back to you.
All right, then. Thanks, Mike. It's very interesting. And of course, since it's recorded, we'll be able to go back and look at it and go from there. So right now, let me show you what Peppermint OS looks like. Let me share my screen here. Let's see here, share. And let me just go for the whole screen, share it. Okay, good. Now let me get, I don't need this anymore. And don't need this anymore. Let me unclutter things here a little bit. And let me minimize that. Okay. Now, here's VirtualBox. And on VirtualBox, I have installed Peppermint. But before, let me just power it up here a minute.
Is Peppermint Ubuntu or is it a different?
It's actually based on Debian.
Okay, it is a Debian. All right.
Yeah, it's Debian. See, I can minimize this guy. I don't need him anymore. There we go.
Could say it's a cousin to Ubuntu. Since they're
Yeah.
both.
It depends upon how you want to define cousin, but yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Same father, different mother. Is that what?
I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Mama
Okay,
said there are two kinds of cousins, kissing cousins and cussing cousins.
right, right. Now, so when you install it, this is the startup screen you get. But before I go there, there's one other thing I want to talk about. And that is when I usually install a distribution in VirtualBox, I want to go in and typically insert the guest additions so that I can do full screen and stuff like that and have it nice. However, when I executed this command of inserting guest additions, the CD didn't show up. And I wondered, what was that about? Well, it turns out that, let me just show you this here. I did some digging around on the web and found out that if you want to get the guest additions to work on Peppermint, you have to go in and basically become a super user, change to the media directory, make a directory called CD-ROM, and then you mount that device CD-ROM under media CD-ROM, and that CD-ROM is actually the VirtualBox guest additions ISO. So once you've done that, then you have to go to the CD-ROM directory and execute the shell command VirtualBox Linux Editions run. Okay, so that was a little bit unusual because this is the first time I had to go to that extent to actually get the guest additions installed. Any questions on that?
So Peppermint did that to you? Like they don't want to have a CD-ROM? They think people don't have CD-ROMs?
Well, it wasn't the usual. Usually when I do devices and insert guest additions CD, typically the distribution will mount the CD and you'll see it on your desktop. But
I think it's the Ubuntu derivatives that do that. And it's because it's done in the Ubuntu derivative that it probably doesn't auto mount, or it probably has its own reason not to auto mount that CD.
okay.
So when you selected that from the menu, it probably connected that image to the CD device in the VirtualBox, but it did not actually the OS did not mount that image. So you
Okay.
have to mount that image manually to make it fly.
Okay. All right. Makes sense.
At least that's what it sounds like to me.
Well,
That's my theory. I'm
or
sticking
did-
with it.
Or was it just that when you created that virtual machine, you did not include a CD-ROM? You
No,
should be
I,
able to include that at the beginning. You're saying that even if you included it, Peppermint undid that?
No, no,
well,
no, no. But
Now,
go
you
ahead.
have to do that, afterwards. And I've had that same problem. And I bet it was Peppermint that I got frustrated with and said, okay, I can't have it full screen because I did all the different tricks of trying to, add the additions through the terminal. And I tried to do it where you go into VirtualBox and create a second CD drive and then link it to the additions.
Yep.
So interesting to note that Peppermint people said, yeah, you don't need to have full screens and stuff, but
Oh, no.
Yeah.
well,
No, because you're not going to do a whole lot with it if you install it in VirtualBox. Come on.
they
Yeah.
probably just don't auto mount drives or don't auto mount them by default.
That could be. But anyway, the good news is following those instructions that I showed you, I got it to work. So that's why I can do things like, as you see here, view with virtual screen. You'll see that I have all kinds of options to resize it and to scale it at the same time. So that's the clue that everything is working as expected. Okay. Now on to the conversation about Peppermint. You'll notice here on the startup screen, they ask you if you want to install a browser, and it pulls up. Yeah, okay, I got to authorize. But then it gives you a list of which browsers you would like. All right, so I could install Firefox and
Bill, I don't think you're sharing that because we don't see those
It took a
choices.
while to
Oh,
show
there
up.
it is.
oh yeah,
It just takes a while to show up. It just showed up.
okay, yeah. I'm sharing my whole screen, so I'll have to remember that it takes a while for everyone to for it to
Yeah,
trickle
you're
through.
right. Sorry.
So no problem. Hey, you know how things go. So we can install.
Obviously not.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also VirtualBox running inside of Zoom too makes a difference.
Oh,
So-
really?
Yeah.
What's the things that need to be talked about there? Is there
I just
some-
think it's we always have some of that problems when we're doing some of our workshops that your computer's trying to run a virtual Zoom
Yep.
meeting and all, and then you're trying to do VirtualBox inside of that with
Yep.
graphics too.
And is that a difficult task for the computer or what?
That's what my thinking is. You just have to go slow. I run into that same problem all the time when I'm doing remote accessing using either TeamViewer or AnyDesk, that somebody says, do you see that? And I'm going, no. And so,
Okay. All right. I don't know, because this particular PC that I'm using right now, it does have a 8th generation i7, and it only has 64 gig of RAM in it. So it's I don't think I could get it any more hyped up. It does have an SSD in it though. All right, so it's
I
interesting
bet
here.
it's the network latency and not anything it
Yeah,
has to do with
that-
your machine.
That would be my suspicion.
Yeah,
Between
and that's
and the choices that are made when encoding the video.
Yes.
and
Yes.
that video part is Zoom thing too.
Yes, yeah, that's a Zoom thing. So it's interesting to note here that even though I pulled up or pushed a tab, it says I want to install browsers, that it also gives me a list of other software here alongside, which is kind of interesting. Interesting. So I guess we go here, we do things like, let me put a calculator here too. And I say install selected. Oh, look at that. All right. Yeah, good. It goes and grabs them.
Pretty interesting choice of pieces that they have on the software list. Just all
Yeah,
over the place.
yeah. for
right?
sure.
And I'm just wondering why they selected some of those things and not others.
And
that
the
are
other
not
thing
here.
that I wonder about is that some of them are in white, and there's other ones here like AR and R, another GUI that's in a different color. Why is that? I wonder.
Yeah.
You know? Okay, so it says it installed these software packages. Let me see if that shows up anywhere.
Hey, Bill,
Yes,
on that screen you just had,
yeah,
on the lower right corner there, if you go back to the software,
yeah. Hold on a second. Stand by. Okay, yes.
on the lower right side there, it says darkened items are already installed.
Oh, thank you. You know, Andy, if I ever learn how to read, I'll be good.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Andy is always very good at catching those little
Oh,
things.
and let me, for the folks that are not in BCUG, Andy is our designated shill. Right?
And the real answer is who reads manuals?
Yeah, and that's why they invented the phrase RTFM. Yeah, okay, fine. Yep, because you're right, Andy. You know, once I installed Firefox, it became, you know, the different color, and so did the Mate calculator.
Would you also install Snap and Flatpak so that you've got the additional repositories?
Well, let me see. Snap,
I
yes.
see Snap
Hold on a
there.
second. Very good. Thank you. Let's do that. Boom. There we go. You gotta admit,
I like how it's doing all the commands for you. That's very nice.
Yes, you just sit back and watch.
Yeah, Bill, if you could just go full screen with that, the little guy in the middle, we might be able to read it.
Let me see here. Don't go away, man. Just go away. Let's see.
Remember, you can
Yay.
change the,
Whoa, dude. Wow. Okay, what do we got here? It says it's done. However, you have to restart it. Let me see. If I go back to here and go back in here again.
remember, you can change the Zoom viewing options and zoom in at some higher resolution on any part of the screen, even if you have an 11-inch screen.
Yep. Yep. This is kind of neat, you know? Very interesting. Let me see what other, so, okay, they got something called peppermint extras. What are they? Ooh, they got peppermint themes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, wow.
Do you think there's enough of them? Wow. Oh, I don't, yeah. Let's go. All right, wait a minute, what happened here? Let me see here. Is that this? No. No, that's, oh, there's a peppermint hub.
Seems like you over-themed it there for a minute.
Yeah, no, so, you know, there was something called Peppermint Hub. I just didn't know where it was. What I was actually looking at before is this guy, Welcome to Peppermint. Okay. And then there's ICE. Now, I always love it when people don't spell things out and you have to actually go into it to see what it's talking about. But I think I remember what ICE was because we've run across this before. This is where you have a site-specific browser, and when you open it, it acts as if it's a program inside the browser. Okay.
No, you don't need it doesn't use, it's not running in the browser.
Yeah, right. It looks like it's an actual program.
Right.
Yep.
But it is running the browser.
It is running the browser, but you don't get the browser interface.
Yeah. I think we played with this before. It's been several months. In fact, it was probably back when we were meeting in person. So it's a couple years ago that we were playing with this. But interesting. Oh, there's something called Pep Hub. Make system changes. What's that? Oh, okay. That's your Peppermint hub. Users and tweaks. Okay, network and hardware. All right. System and software. Ah, this is pretty neat. This is all right. Very, very interesting. Let's take a look at what's on the menu here. Favorites, yeah, okay. Recently used. Accessories. You've got application finders and disks. Mate calculator, which I installed. Menu, screenshot, test manager. Okay, development.
Would you right click on any app and see what the options are? Just pick an app. Let's see what, if you right click on it.
Let me right click on this.
There we go. So you can, okay, you can put it on favorites.
Yeah, favorites or the desktop.
You can put the icon on the desktop. Good. And you can
Or
put it on the
panel.
panel. Okay, good.
Yep.
Because I know there's a number of purists that say, nah, let's not use any icons on the desktop, and therefore their distributions don't give you the option of putting icons on the desktop.
Right.
You talking about me, Mike?
Oh, there are some purists out there. Okay.
Oh, we got a purist in the crowd? Okay, well, that's understandable.
John doesn't like icons.
Okay, well, that's no problem.
You know, I like the fact that your menu opens up on its own rather than having to click on it.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yep, I see what you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, so you just hover over it and you
I
see
hovered over it, yes.
the rest of the menu. That's really nice.
Yep.
Except for
Multimedia.
people whose hands move and it jumps to a different menu than you want.
Well, okay.
We can't speak to that situation. Settings, okay, lots of different settings here. Wow. Very, very, very nice. Even for the terminal, really? What can I say? Okay. Yeah. All right. My goodness, boy, there's settings upon settings on this thing. Okay. Let's see, what else we got? System. Editor. Task manager. I mean, one of the things we always do whenever we boot up a new distribution is we always run top to see what's going on and how much room it's taking up. Not too much. Of course, then let's see if it has H-top. Nope, doesn't have H-top. All right.
What's the difference between top and H-top?
Well, let me show you. Sudo app install. Oops, I can't put a space in there, Bill. Do this. Okay. H-top. There's H-top. Okay.
It just has colors instead of black and white.
It's colors and probably has a lot more, several other features in it that. Say again.
Does top have? I don't think. If you bring up top, you got your F keys at the bottom.
Yep. Let's see here. Let me bring.
There's lots and lots and lots of
Yeah.
additional detail that H-top will show you in
Yeah.
addition to the color.
Okay.
You could bring up a parallel window and put top in that and H-top in the other one we can look at.
Sure, absolutely. Let me get rid of this. Clear out some room. Actually, so this uses the same trick as Windows, where you drag it to the edge and it makes it a halfway there. So run top here. There you go. There's top and H-top running side by side. So. And both of them are keying off of CPU, I believe.
If you ask for a comparison, you do a web search, it says HTOP is interactive, ncurses based processes viewer for Linux systems. It is practically a top-like tool, but it displays colorful text and uses ncurses to implement a text graphical interface and allows for output scrolling.
Okay.
So basically they're the same thing. It's just a different way of displaying it.
Yeah. You know, visually, you know, to me, HTOP is nicer up at the top, you know, on the left-hand side with this top, you know, everything is so cluttered together with all the different CPU numbers and stuff like that. And the other side is better. But I think there's another one that I heard about that I took a look at, but I don't do enough in this top stuff to kill things. But I like HTOP better than top.
Okay. Cool.
I'm a big fan of BPyTop personally.
Of which?
BPyTop, BPyTop.
Oh, okay.
It does
That's
even
so
more.
that sounds like the one that I was thinking about that I couldn't remember.
There's a slew of them. There's ATOP, IOTOP. There's a whole bunch of
okay.
different top competitors.
So what you're telling me is you could go crazy looking at all these things, right?
BPyTop is nice.
You have to use your computer for something.
Well, yeah, I know that. Hold on, what's it? What was that? BY top?
BPyTop.
BPY top, like that, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's in the repos. Looks like it is.
It looks like it is. Okay. BPY tab. Because I hate typing stuff. Woo! Check it out.
Yeah, it goes pretty.
Wow-wee. Sure is.
This one's like Conky, you know, Conky can do some.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody can see this besides me, but if you look at the bottom of my screen, there's a row of colored bars across there.
Your screen. Wait a minute.
Am I?
Did you want to share it, Bruce?
Yeah, let me just turn the video on. That should do what I want to do here. There we go.
Well, you want me to stop sharing?
No, I don't think you need to stop sharing. It should show in my picture, I think.
Oh, well, hold a second.
BPyTop incidentally does more if you run it as root.
Oh, really? Okay. Let me, hold a second. Let me minimize that for a second. I'll run it as root. So I presume I can get out of here.
Q.
Is it like a Q? There we go. So if I run it as root, so if I do sudo by it's BP. Excuse me. BPY TOP. Okay. It does more, right? Okay. Wow. Man.
Anyway, systems monitor, I check it out, and I have a script that puts it across the bottom of my screen as a single line of useful information. So I leave it there all the time.
Cool. Yeah, for those of you in the other group, the other thing that Bruce is, he's been the command line dude in our group for many, many years. So
we're sort of working in that direction, but you know, we get to the point of using the command line when we have to.
Oh yeah.
Rather than, okay, what are all the things we can do in the command line?
Oh yeah. No, if you take the Andy Kerrigan approach to things, it's like, hey, you want to make it easy for the user to use and do whatever they want to do. Right, Andy? Did we lose Andy? There we go.
No.
Very interesting.
So what is on the right-hand side, you've got basically a moving set of text. You know, the vertical bar with the horizontal bar. What's that actually showing us? The usage of the CPU as it goes on, or what?
Yeah, that's CPU load.
That's CPU load. So it's kind of even at about 50%, or well, it's saying it's only 4%. So that
4%,
represents
yeah.
4%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, by the way, this virtual machine, I've only allotted it one core of the i7. So very, very interesting. Anybody have any more comments, questions about this particular distro?
How do you like Peppermint? Have you used it other than just this, like for this demonstration? Have you used it for anything?
No, not really. I mean, what I typically do, Mike, is I keep an eye on distro watch to see which distros are being renewed and updated. And the weekend before, I make a choice of which distro I'm going to show in that particular meeting. So, I mean, normally I'll use on my other machine, I've got Linux Mint that I use all the time.
Yeah, same here.
So, but yeah.
Does this distro by default have Office on it? I didn't see that.
Let me see here a second.
Libre. Yeah, Libre.
That's it. Let's see here. Very interesting.
I don't see it.
I don't see it. No. But
Since you brought up that question, there was something that I was wondering about with this large group of people. How many people use the free online version of Microsoft Office programs through their browser versus using LibreOffice?
Only when I have to.
I mean, how can you tell the difference? You use this ICE thing or a web app, and you've got a somewhat crippled version of Word running on your screen.
I will
compared to
use
LibreOffice.
I'll use LibreOffice most of the time just for compatibility. But like somebody will send me an Excel spreadsheet that's got macros in it or has formatting or graphs, and I have to do it in Excel, then I'll go to the online Office apps.
You can't use macros online. I mean, when I say slightly crippled, no VBA, no macros for any Office program online. But otherwise, it's like, why use LibreOffice Writer instead of the online version of Word for free? They're both free.
Because I don't like Windows.
Any sort of sensitive work that
It's
doesn't
not
involve
Windows.
sending my
You're
documents
using
by
whatever
cloud.
browser you want, and all you're doing is using Word. It's not Windows.
It's Microsoft, though. It's Microsoft's.
Oh, so religion.
For me, pretty much the only reason I use any Office project is for work. And for that, I really can't afford to send my data across the cloud to Microsoft. Same reason I don't use Google Docs for any of this stuff. I have had luck with SoftMaker's free version of their Office suite being somewhat more feature compatible than LibreOffice. But it's mixed.
What was that name?
SoftMaker is the name of the company. They have a free and a not free, as free as in beer, not free as in speech, Office suite.
I use SoftMaker also, and they also have a Linux version as well as a Windows version.
I don't use the Windows version because why would I? But the Linux version is pretty good.
The problem I've had is I've created presentations in PowerPoint with equations in them. When I go to one of the open source versions, it won't display the equations correctly. So I'm kind of stuck on Microsoft Office.
Or stop using equations.
So many people I mean, Mike says that he uses it for work. And when you're not being forced by work and that kind of interaction, a lot of the things that you used to learn or use seem to go by the wayside.
Hey, Mike, where is the dividing line, in your opinion, between SoftOffice and LibreOffice? When would you prefer one versus the other?
Different. life, I guess.
SoftMaker's interface is a little bit less headache inducing. I find things more often in the same places there that I do in Microsoft's Office. Allegedly, their file compatibility, actually, no, I take it back. Their file compatibility is better. I have one particular document that I have to keep editing that explodes if I use it in LibreOffice. You'll never open it in anything again. But it works in SoftMakers. However, SoftMaker, I find, sucks up more system resources, especially RAM, and is generally less friendly to the computer to run than LibreOffice.
But it sounds like in terms of usability and functionality, you prefer SoftMaker.
Most of the
Pretty
time,
much
yeah.
without exception. No?
There are some things in the spreadsheet that I like better in LibreOffice, since I'm more used to it. But it's down to that level of
What is the
keep both of them installed, I'll put it that way.
can someone put the name of the chart in the chat, software in the chat, please?
SoftOffice.
SoftMaker.
Or SoftMaker, yeah.
If you haven't noticed or found out that LibreOffice now has two options for your toolbars. You can have the traditional drop-down menus, or you can choose the ribbon version of your toolbar. So if you like the ribbon version from Microsoft, you can change LibreOffice to look like that. If you like the default drop down, you can stay with that.
Is that a particular version of LibreOffice that supports that?
No, all of them do.
Since 6.3, I think it was.
Yeah, you go. They call them. I'd have to look it up. They don't call it ribbon. It's tabbed something or other. So you can go up into your one of the views and choose tabbed, and it will look like the ribbons from Microsoft.
They aren't organized quite exactly the same way, but it's a little more visually familiar.
Yeah. If it was too close, then Microsoft would say, copycat, copycat.
We'd be back to the look and feel lawsuits from the 80s, huh?
I'm actually surprised that LibreOffice gets away with making it look so much like Microsoft Office in the graphic interface. But I don't think they've been sued, so.
I would hope that that some realization that bad press from that would not be worth it.
To get back to John's initial point, though, I mean, I'm a Linux user. I don't want to use Microsoft, and I'm planning to make a transition from using Apple products to just Linux eventually, but it's slow.
Now, LibreOffice is actually a European operation too, so I'm not sure how much the American law about copyrights, I don't know how all that works, but I think they can probably get away with a lot more than they could if they were based in the US.
There's also a lot of prior art on look and feels of Office programs.
Mike Carson. Hey, Mike, is this SoftOffice a free Office program, or?
They've got two versions. One is free and one is not. I don't actually know what the difference is because I never seriously considered paying for it.
Every once in a while, they give away an older version. I have a 2016 version of SoftMaker Office installed on my computer, on my Windows computer. And you can also get a portable version to put on a USB stick.
Yeah, I didn't see anything about.
I go back to,
on their website.
I think the free version might be on a different website. Do a search for the free
I was
version.
going to say, I go back to LibreOffice from its roots and started with them back in the 80s with Star Office.
Yeah.
So John, you would probably have a tougher time with Microsoft Office than if you needed to, because you've been using LibreOffice forever.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, with the laptop that I have from APCUG, Bill James gave me a free copy of his whole Office, and I don't really use it.
Yeah.
I would take a minute right now to speak for Dave and myself and say that there are a number of you that I'm looking at on my screen that should be taking part and doing presentations with our Learning Linux workshops that APCUG does the third Wednesday of almost every month. Because you guys are kind of knowing, you're not these beginners, and we could use some people doing some sharing of things.
That's for sure. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of stuff discussed today that I have no idea, you know, not run into, not done. So that's awesome.
Interesting question. How many people here have from BCUG have actually worked with the Carnegie and Ritchie crew? I know I've worked with Korn.
Yes,
At
Dave Korn was in my group. The K shell was developed while I was working with him on a project. It was developed for that project.
A heck of a lot of people here are old-time AT&Ters who go back that far.
I taught Unix. I may even have taught Bruce Fowler because I was one of the first people using it and taught most of the people that started using it at Bell Labs in Homedale.
Hey, John, are you looking for just people to join the meetings and help out ad hoc, or are you looking for specific topics?
We take about any kind of topics, and we look for anybody who would like to share something. And it doesn't, with our workshops, we have a 2-hour span, but you don't have to do 2 hours. You know, we have right now, it's Dave and Cal from Louisiana and Orv Beach from California. And, you know, we kind of take some topics and put together some. I've done a couple of solo things with total beginners, but, you know, each month we're trying to think, you know, we're trying to work on ideas for March. You know, what do we want to do in our programs in March? And where's there's Mike. I had to go find you. I'm going to be pressuring Mike to get out of work or whatever he does on a third Wednesday and do the Ventoy. I want that Ventoy with all of your bumps and, you know, stuff with it, because that was great. You know, people need to see how, well, it didn't work for me and I had to try a couple different things and then I got it to work. So, you know, I want that program that presentation that wasn't perfect.
Okay, well, I'll download the video and I'll edit it and I can just push the button and you got it.
We don't like
I'll be
videos.
there. I'll be there to talk about it. But
yeah, but I mean, you know,
yeah,
we need some people and we need some ideas and stuff. And I've been trying to find all these other Linux groups, and Mike's group came about probably because of his attending our Linux workshops and decided to get a group going. And if Tim's still here,
Yeah, Tim's
Um,
here.
There you
I
are.
think, yeah.
And I think the same thing for Tim. You know, he had been attending the Learning Linux workshops. Then all of a sudden he got his Chicago group going again. And now I find out that BCUG has a group. I'm going, where have all these groups been? And, you know, we're not that small of an organization. Come on, let's go attack the Windows.
As far as those workshops go, I'm a novice. How could I attend one?
Since you're a member of BCUG, who's a member of APCUG, your advisor or your officers should be sending around the message letters that we send out about all the workshops. We just sent out the one for February yesterday, and there's 3 we got coming up. Saturday's workshop, and then we have the third Linux on the 3rd Wednesday, and then we have a Windows one on the 4th Wednesday. But we send those out to the officers, and then anybody who ever signs up for one gets on the mailing list, and we have about 1,800 people we send out to.
Your announcement was just sent out to twice as many people as are members of BCUG. Paul is not in BCUG, right, Paul?
Not yet. I've only been in the webinar here a couple of times. This is my 2nd time.
Did you come via Meetup?
That's correct.
Okay, there was one other fellow who dropped in named Stalin Garcia, and I sent him the link. He just joined via Meetup. We have 300 people in Meetup who are members. Meetup is free. 6 people have ever joined BCUG via Meetup out of the 300.
That's not a very good percentage.
A waste of money. Yeah. But it's the only advertising that we have compared to next door. Now you talk about having presentations about Linux. The breadth of what people are interested in. I mean, you talk about Linux for beginners, and some people can't get their browser to work on Windows.
Yep.
It's just, you don't know who your audience is. You may have 1,000 people in that meeting, but the span, like Sergey takes us through how to do things at the command line, working with partitions and devices and stuff like that. And we go through that. Some of us in the group may actually make use of that periodically, but Sergey is a developer. Mike is a developer. Some people are actually still developers. I use Linux regularly just because it's much, much faster than using a Windows GUI to do certain things. But I can still use Vim on Windows. So, and I can use Bash too. So I use WSL. So I'm just, no religion for me. I want to get the job done.
Yeah, I just posted in chat the February 16th Learning Linux link if you want to register.
I wanted to share that I knew nothing about Linux, but because I'm a member of a local group in Olympia, I get the mailing about APCUG. So I found out my Windows computer, of course, won't go to Windows 11. So I said, okay, what am I going to do? I don't really want to buy a new one. I like my desktop. So, and then the hard drives failed, and the guy who put in new hard drives, because I don't know how to do any of that, he made it dual boot, both Windows and Linux. And he said, you're going to learn Linux. And I said, oh, all right. But so I'm a beginner, and Tim is teaching a class for beginners, and Mike is teaching a class for beginners. And I try APCUG, and when they have a beginner class, that's really helpful. But some of the others are over my head, like some of the stuff you guys were doing at this end here, kind of over my head. I mean, I listen, but I'm certainly not a programmer. I've never even opened a computer other than the lid, you know, so it's a real learning experience, but there are people helping beginners. And but you have to be a member of a club somewhere. So you have to join a club.
As long as you're a member, a member of a club that's a member of APCUG, because this is one of, it's one of your benefits. And you do that. But Donna's right. When I started this almost 1.5 years ago, it was for the beginner. And that's why we called it Learning Linux. And what happened was we had a lot of beginning people in there, but then we had a lot of people who were Linux users, and they started pulling the focus more towards more advanced things. So I've had to have a number of beginners only, and I tell people this is for beginners only, but still, I guess we have people that show up. Because I've gone to the very beginnings.
Relearn, John. We
relearn. Relearn.
For sure. I mean, look, like I said, I was using this back in 1975, 76, 77, and teaching it when I had to teach C, when we developed these tools. But then you go to a GUI. I don't know what the latest GUI is. I don't know what BPY top is. And so I have to come to these meetings to keep up with all of the new stuff that people are using, because people take the latest thing because that's what's advertised, and that's the only way to keep up. Otherwise, I'd just be nose to the grindstone.
Yeah, I think you're right, John.
Yeah, my whole goal was to make people aware that there was an alternative to Windows. And it's a good alternative. And, so we do have, as Donna would say, there are some days that we have some topics that are a little bit more advanced. I try to make sure that we have a combination of things. And last month I did a whole, beginner talk, took everybody through, here's how an everyday Linux user works, just like a Windows person works. We use some of the same programs. We do some of the same things, just to see, that's for beginners.
It was an excellent presentation John.
Oh, thanks. Well, and this month, as the thing says, Dave's going to take us through his journey of distro hopping and why he kept changing and stuff like that. And Cal's going to talk about software, the default software happens to be in Mint. And because Orv's not going to be there, I had to come up with something, and it just popped in my head. We're going to examine the control panel, control center. I like that the Peppermint calls it a hub, but it looked like the same thing, that it was the control panel. But we're trying to get ideas. And then the problem we run into is we ask people, what would you like to see presented? And everybody just sits there. So, that's why, like tonight, after seeing
John,
what
we don't know.
I know.
You guys are leading the babies along the way.
But we have to need some help in which path do we go down. But that's why tonight, when I saw what, how Mike did, we've talked about the Ventoy before, and I love the fact that it didn't work perfect for him. And so that way would help Donna know that, hey, she thinks that Mike's a real expert. I'm not an expert.
It's always good to fail because you learn from it.
And experts get it wrong all the time.
Yeah, and people think I'm something of an expert, but I'm somebody who's willing to get up and start talking about stuff and organizing things. But I'm not the command line. I've learned a little bit about it, and but I'm not a big expert on everything. I know a lot about little things.
And we are all learners. Don't be afraid to look like a fool, because we're all professional mistake makers.
Yeah. And that's why APUCG's big thing is we do live presentations. We do it, and Judy calls it warts and all, because things don't always go well. We don't care about being a perfect presentation, because we want people to know that even people who are experienced, I don't call experts, hit bumps in the road and things don't go right.
Speaking of mistake makers, I made a statement earlier about that thing that was a disk label. There is no such thing as a text disk label in either MBR or GPT. I was wrong. So it sounds like it labeled the partition. Partitions do get text label names.
Okay.
And so that's what it looked like that file browser was displaying. And there is actually, you can either use parted or there is a command line called E2 label that can be used to modify a label on a partition.
So
Yeah, I look at all the problems on the computers, and I cover a wide gambit of OSs and computer types and that. And I look at them as learning opportunities. If I stumble on a crazy problem, and I've just had several of them already this week, and it's not even half over. And I learned a lot of several things that I either didn't remember, or I now refresh myself, so to speak, or I learned new ways of doing some things. I had a security patch that I put in. I found out it was causing me some minor issues, but I knew the command line backdoor and was still able to do my updates. Then I figured out how to take and undo the security change that I made to permissions on PK exec because I had modified it before the patch came in. And so the end result is I had to figure out how to undo it. And that's a little more arcane to undo that. But I figured that out and seems to be working fine.
Looks like a good topic for a future APCU presentation, how to undo a patch or an update.
Well, it's not so much a patch or the update. It's a case where it was being advised to change the permissions on PK exec because there were some nice people out there being able to take over your computer. And so this was a way of blocking them until the patch came out. But then I forgot about it, and I was noticing strange behavior. Bleach bit root would not work. Software update through the GUI would not work on the Mint. It kept saying, I can't do security patches. And so I went to the back door with a terminal. I did the commands. It went through just fine. Then I figured out what was probably causing the problem. And you modify PK exec through change mod 755. And to undo it, I don't know of a number you can use. What I've discovered is you have to use the probably one of the first ways of changing the permissions. You do a change mod U equals, put in your switches, and one of them has to be S. And then you put a comma, you put in G equals, and like RX, comma, O equals X, then a space and put your path and file name in, and it'll undo it.
Well, you lost me, but my point,
Okay.
my point is explaining that whole thing, you know, where did you go? How did you find out how to do that? How did you research the command and all the options in order to do something like that? That's a learning environment and something people could take advantage of.
Yeah. And to point, so you can feel better, some of the stuff he's talking about, I'm not a programmer, I'm not a coder, so it's all, you know, new stuff to me. I understand some of what he's talking because of what people have shown in some of our workshops, but this is what makes me feel why am I the host of Learning Linux when I'm not a Linux expert? It's just because I get up and talk.
The
Pull people
CEOs
together,
of
so-
companies are not the ones who know how to do what this company
Exactly.
does.
Yep,
They run
exactly.
the company.
So I'm offering it. If anybody would like to do a presentation, doesn't have to be a long one. We can put, 30-minute times for 4 different people, 2 people, an hour of time. But we're always looking, because I'm running out of ideas. And Donna says, I don't know what to tell you to do. And that's what other people do. And then all of a sudden we get people who say, hey, how about doing something like this? And I'm going, well, if we could find somebody who can do that, sure. But Dave says, I can't do that. John says, I don't know how to do that. Mike says, I don't know how to do that. So we need people who know how to do stuff to share it with the rest of us. And I'm excited that we found that we've got going my group and my Linux group here in Ohio, and Tim's group and Mike's group and your group. I'm going, wow, great. We've got at least 4, and Olympia's got one up there. So I'm excited that Linux is alive. We just don't know about it.
I think one of the biggest reasons is, and I go back to a computer show in 1995. That's when I found out about a little bit about Linux, and it was a nightmare. And too many of the people you might on a forum ask for some help. RTFM was their a flaming answer to your situation.
Yeah.
Get the help. And then it took several years before it finally got easy enough where I started playing with it. And that's the thing, I play with them. I was a distro hopper to some extent, and to some degree I still am, but I have a number of different systems. I've got one that's got 2 drives in it. Each drive has, and they're solid state, has a different version of Windows 10 on it, because I'm still a heavy Windows user, and I have 11 on the machine I'm on now. And it has on one drive 4 distros of Linux, and the other one has now 5, and I got probably enough room on it. I could probably add 2 or 3 more, but they're there mostly for testing and just playing around with it. What does this do? What does that do? How does this do this versus that one does it this way? And so I call it playing. Playing is not doing work and just sitting there playing around like a kid, absorbing what you see coming across. Then when I get serious for work, I don't want to learn much of anything. It's the wrong time to learn when you're trying to actually do work. So at that point in time, only if I can't remember how to do something, or if I decide to try out a new feature, I might try and experiment a little bit while I'm trying to work. But if I don't get anywhere, I just fall back on what I do know, and later on I'll play around and see if I can get it to work.
Gentlemen, I want to share one thing. Mike makes videos of the presentations, and so does Tim, that for us beginners, we can go back and look at. I don't know if BCU, I don't think you do, and it would be really helpful because I can't be in 2 places at once. And certainly some of the things you do are beyond me, but I wouldn't mind, watching, but you don't make videos to my knowledge.
Who's the you?
The BCUG.
We record everything we do.
No, not AP, this other group that we joined.
I know you're talking about BCUG.
Yeah.
Based on tonight's experience, I'm going to talk to Mike, because it sounds like what you do, Mike, is you record it and then upload it to YouTube. Is that right?
Right. And our our computer society has its own channel on YouTube. You don't pay for it. You just have your channel.
Okay.
And then as we post our videos, then we'll create playlists. So we've got a playlist for our Linux SIGs, a playlist for our Tech SIG, playlist for our main meetings. And somebody can go there to the CFCS channel and then see the playlist that we've got for all the year if they want to go back and listen. You know, the Tech SIG is just kind of an adult show and tell. So if you just got nothing better to do and you just want to see gadgets and guys demonstrating or talking about their latest toy that they bought, you know, it's a time waster and a time involver. You know, it's just enjoyable to watch sometimes.
But anyway, I can't be in two places at once. So while I've joined Meetup and I get your announcement, I'm still a beginner and I need to be in Mike's class or I need to be in Tim's class. So anyway, I'm so happy that you got together, and I did tell Mike about this other group that meets at the same time, because it was really fun to see all of you and to hear different things, even if I didn't understand the latter half so much, but I sat through it. So thank you. I appreciate it very, very much.
Yeah.
On Meetup, we are the Brookdale CUG. So Donna, if you want to join us on Meetup, I know that every Linux meeting is announced on there, and they've been putting the link to Zoom meetings, and you're more than welcome.
Right, I know that, but it's the same time as the beginner class that I'm in. That's the problem. You're both on the same date, same time.
That's why
Well,
she's making this
we
suggestion
may-
about recording things.
Yeah, and we may look to deconflict the date. You know, I like the fact that we did a joint meeting today, and offline we'll discuss if we want to do this in the future and perhaps every other month or something like that. But I can talk to our group and maybe see if there's a date that we could move it to so that people can attend both without having the, you know, the conflict on the same day. Now that we know, you know, that there's a different orientation in each group too. So.
Move to like maybe the last Tuesday.
No, I've got that.
Yeah, let us know what,
As
what
one of
day
the
you've got down.
administrators, our dates were pretty much set because we had a physical venue
Yeah.
that we met. Moving on to Zoom makes it appear like you can just move things around whenever you want. But once you've signed up with somebody and they've put you on their schedule for, you've got that room at that place at that time, you're no longer as quick to move the date of your meetings. And the dates of our meetings have been on the same day of the month for decades. So
we
so
may
we
be
can look
able,
about how to do this, but
Yeah.
the idea of recording them, that's good, but you don't get to ask questions. You have to join the club so that you can post on the bulletin board.
Yep.
Now, maybe APCUG could have a groups.io bulletin board where people could ask questions and share across the whole world. That's
Well, how do
something.
we join the BCUG club?
You can't join the APCUG club, but you can join the BCUG.
So how do we do that? Is it just through Meetup, or do we?
No, the meetup is free. And as I said, we have 300 members. Nobody shows up. Go to bcug.com and there's instructions, a form, things like that. Our meetings are free and open to the public. And I tell people all the time, look on our schedule. And if you see something that interests you and you are not a member, just let the workshop leader know that you need the Zoom link and they will gladly send it to you. So you can show up many times before you join. Joining for a year only costs $30 if you're over 62 and not working. We're pretty cheap, really, but you can show up for free.
Okay, and if we're under 62?
$35. Big
Oh,
deal.
that's still cheap. Okay. All right, I'll do that. Thank you.
I do like the idea of having a centralized bulletin board, though. There's a number of ways, whether you have your own websites with them integrated. Discord is another method. We played with that with the Central Florida Computer Society, and we found it actually was like the old BBS systems that we used to have, except it's been modernized on the web. And you can set up forums, and the forums can have sub forums, and you can have chats and Q&A and all kinds of stuff.
As I've been looking at groups.io, because I've
Same
been
thing.
unable to upgrade our club website, which is going to get migrated, you need an administrator. You need somebody who figures out what the rules are.
Yep.
And then makes people adhere to them. So there is work to do to have any of these things. You can't just let them free run.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah, I raised my hand and volunteered with another social organization I'm in to be their webmaster, and it's a major task getting that thing going. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
With a large enough group as APCUG that has people all over the country to draw upon, maybe you could find some people who are interested and congenial to have a small cadre that would handle a bulletin board type setup.
Well, sorry to have to burst your bubble, John, but APCUG is actually 8 people. Because
see,
it's just
and
the
they're the same
umbrella
ones year after
organization.
year.
Somewhat. We can't get enough interest in direct people being on the board of directors. And I happen to be one of the advisors, and I do 2 or 3 jobs of advisors because we can't get people who would be interested in becoming an advisor. So mainly the APCUG is just the umbrella group that tries to provide benefits to member computer groups like yours and Mike's and Tim's through the workshops, through the reports that we give about what everybody's doing, give ideas. The Speakers Bureau is one of the big things that is a benefit because it provides speakers for your groups at no cost to you. So, the idea of said, yeah, I agree. It'd be nice to have a bulletin board, but we've got to have somebody who could do it. But unfortunately, over the years that I've been with APCG, my region used to be just central or our area, and it ended up getting to be Chicago's area. So that's why Tim's in my group now, because I go clear through up North Dakota, South Dakota. We had our person who was in Florida left. So Judy is now doing, 2 or 3 regions because we don't have anybody that's willing to become a advisor and take over the communication links that I do with all of my groups. But love to have.
What about excuse me, a Facebook page group? Is that taboo for the Linux group, or?
No, we have a Facebook page, but as I said, Paul, all of these things require administration. I'm the president. I handle membership. I plan a meeting. And thank goodness I have outstanding people like Lee Maxwell, who handles the newsletter, which is an outstanding newsletter every month. Take a look at our newsletter on our website, bcug.com. Look at the newsletters. We've got decades of newsletters there with magnificent articles, many of them also reproducing stuff from APCUG and other clubs. But and Bill, Chris, and our other workshop leaders, they're the ones who keep the club going. And this Linux group, fantastic every month. Lively conversations that range far and wide, as well as Linux. But people get older. People don't like Zoom meetings. I just had one guy say, I'm not renewing until you get rid of the Zoom meetings. People want to socialize as well. And I agree. It's very depressing. And getting old is not easy either.
If nothing else, without getting partisan or anything, the pandemic itself has actually caused the increase in communication among user groups and among people. For those of you that are not aware of it, there's just an ad hoc group called Tech for Senior that meets on Mondays. And it grew from about 20, 25 people up to over 150 in the last 8 months. And now it's become a regular organized show with multiple meetings 3 times a week, different subjects, different purposes. And from that, we've gained a number of people that are here tonight. And we've also brought a number of people because they found out about their user groups and have gone to their user groups, and then they've joined in APCUG. So the communication via Zoom has put a lot of people together. I think we had the very first CFCS Linux SIG, which was my idea at the time, was last May. We probably had 10 people from Central Florida Computer Society and maybe 2 or 3 from elsewhere. Now it's probably 10 people from elsewhere and 2 or 3 from the Central Florida Computer Society. And it might fizzle out. I don't know. That's why I enjoy coming here tonight and seeing what you guys are doing. And maybe we'll do this again in the future. We'll have to talk about it offline and see what we'd like to do. I'd very much like to deconflict our meeting, but on the other hand, us coming to you and perhaps you coming to us at the same time, either every month or every other month or every 3 months or once, however we do it, might keep interest going and bring more people to that environment. So let's see where it goes.
If you have a flyer or something, I could put things around my work area, because we have, right where I work, we have about 500 or 600 people. We use nothing but Linux, well, Linux and Unix, but we also work with Lockheed Martin folks and Raytheon folks, and we're talking like another 20, 30,000 people. We're always going out looking for Linux groups, and we could never find them until recently, like you said, Mike, with the pandemic. But, you know, I'm willing to put the word out there.
We could also decide not to undo this conflict by just having another meeting that's a joint meeting on another night of the month.
Yep.
There's lots of alternatives because of Zoom, as you say, Mike. And thank you for that, Paul. You can be in communication with me. My address, my email, by whatever mechanism is easily found. Check me on bcug.com.
Okay,
any kinds of
I have that
ideas.
open. That sounds good. I have the page open right now. When we're done, I'll go into that page a little more.
One of the other benefits that we provided with APCG was free access to Zoom meetings for member groups. And we have quite a lot of groups that are meeting. In fact, we added 2 more Zoom rooms to our account. Plus we have to have some of our private Zoom account we have, because we have 3 groups that meet at the same time across the country. And so we had to put them on some of the ones that we try to reserve for just us. But we know that if we hadn't been able to provide that Zoom access, we would have lost a number of groups because they couldn't meet in person. And we've lost a number of computers or lost a number of groups because of not being able to meet, but we have lots of groups that stuck together because they were able to get this way. And a lot of us say it still can be social. We just can't eat with each other. We have to eat on our own. But we see you, you see me, we talk to each other, and the next best thing I'd have to say.
Yeah, we'd like to go back to in-person meetings. Prior to the pandemic, we had developed a capability for hybrid meetings. Zoom had just, started, so we were evaluating all kinds of conferencing systems. And once we got locked down, Zoom became the only thing we were using for at least a year and a half. Now they're talking about getting together again, with social distancing, and we've got the equipment. We've got the video camera, we've got the microphones, we got the boom mic. We're trying out the new Facebook device that mounts on top of a widescreen TV and can pick up people that are in the room and broadcast them live. Our president's looking into that, and I think the only thing that's remaining is the where and when. Well, we know the when, but the where, finding the conference room and trying to do that again. So it may happen, but we want to keep a presence on Zoom so that we can bring other people in still.
And I want to just say something to Paul. If you join the local group that John is talking about, from there, then you are part of APCUG with these Wednesday seminars, and they'll share that announcement with you. And then there's a list of computer clubs that are open. And that's how I found my way around during this time of pandemic. That's how I can join Chicago, and I can join Florida, and I live in Washington State. So it's just a benefit of being a member of a local club. And it's a wonderful benefit during this time when we're all home. For those of us retired, not working.
Thank you, Donna.
All right, well, it's been fun, but I've got to leave because I've got other stuff to do, but it's been great talking to you folks, and I hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, I gotta leave too, so.
Yeah, you spend time in California.
Great meeting, folks. We'll be in touch.
Thank you very much. Yep,
Thank you for the invite.
no problem. See you next time, folks.
I'll be in
Have a good
touch.
night,
Everybody.
I'll be
Thank
in
you,
touch, John.
everybody. Good night, all.
Live,
You're
live
gonna
long and
have
healthy.
the video and send it to us?
Yes, definitely.
Do you need my email or?
I'm not sure if I have it or not. I'll get it off of the
J
BCUG.
Stamfel, at there, jstamfel@gmail.com.
Okay, Jan Stanfeld at Gmail. Got it.